Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here, and it's another episode of Shonen versus Shojo in name only. Because I picked this up and I said, oh, it's pink and it's got frills all over the cover, and there's a girl on the front, and they kind of have that bug eye anime freak look from the early 2000s. So this must be a Shojo, right? And I didn't read the top. Shonen Sunday. So I guess this is Shonen versus Shonen. But I didn't figure out until I was most of the way through it, and then the female manga artist comes on at the end to joke about how almost no girls read her manga, and they were writing her letters asking her to have fewer sexy scenes, which I thought was really funny. But it was kind of like she was rubbing it in that I'm not paying attention. OCD fail. So point of this, I think, is to do really brief, really perfunctory, here's just what I'm reading today, and not go on, I don't know, about the socialist work of William Morris in 1888 or something. So Tite Kubo's Bleach. Some commenters have told me they liked Bleach in the beginning and they kind of checked out of it later on. So I've kind of gone in forewarned and forearmed that a lot of people don't like what Bleach became later down the road in later arcs, but I'm really, really enjoying the early volumes. It's pretty straightforward, good dude versus monsters kind of vibe. And Tite Kubo has what I call almost kind of like an edgy underground style. He talks a lot about Western actors and Western music in his notes. So he's clearly got a real appreciation for Western culture, which I think he introduces into his characters in his world subtly. So it gives it sort of this maybe like less weebish feel than a lot of other manga. I think because Tito's an Americaphile. I liked how this dude Chad has a distinctly different look than Ichigo. It's not every man has the same exact facial structure, and Chad's story kind of reinforces the good big brother morality of Ichigo. So I liked that they were kind of taking that from a different perspective. Ichigo's a good big brother for some little sisters. Chad takes care of animals, and he likes to take care of young people, even though it's not his literal brother. He still kind of has a brotherly relationship. Yeah, I dig that, and I really enjoy how Orihime is an illustration of good use of random humor. So Orihime has a little bit of a random personality, and she's a bit of a daydreamer. But the way Tito makes this work is that Orihime is one of the only she's really the only random girl in school. Therefore, the random humor serves as a contrast to the more normal, down-to-earth characters. And it works with her because she's sort of a daydreamer and a bit of a space cadet. So when she, like when she says, observe my eating lunch pose, that's a teehee so random gag, but it's balanced with other types of humor, and it's balanced by putting her in the context of a pretty normal high school world. And I dig it, She's cute, kind of ditzy, and kind of fun because she's not overbearing in her randomness. Game Boy Advance alert. I love it when you see something that dates a manga to a particular era. And then it has some kind of interesting themes. So one of my commenters mentioned that the early chapters of Bleach are about, like a guy hunting ghosts, but they're also about dealing with death and acceptance of death, which I get. Yeah, all of the ghosts have some sort of problem with death or some sort of lost loved one, and they have to cope with that in a different ways. And one of them's a serial killer, and he goes to hell. I won't show that, but it's like a totally over-the-top, crazy scene that illustrates what I'm talking about, that Tite's got this real underground vibe going, and I really like his pencil sketches. I skipped a bit with some of the side characters, but even when he has, some of the side characters have, familial interactions, it's like siblings fighting, an adopted dad being a good dad. It's good vibes. It's tons and tons of good vibes, and that's what I think makes a nice, healthy young boy's fantasy. A few sexual gags, some over-the-top, scary monsters. So I think this is like a good teenage boy book. Hayate the Combat Butler it's what I call Japanese Monty Python. I like Monty Python. What I think makes Monty Python work is their best sketches are about an illogical idea taken to a logical extreme. So the Ministry of Silly Walks. Well, one reason the Ministry of Silly Walks is funny is you see all these guys, walking around real goofy. But another reason the Ministry of Silly Walks is so funny is that it's making fun of, pencil pusher bureaucrats who have, forms in triplicate for everything. So the silly idea is, what if there was a government department for copywriting silly walks? And then if you pay attention to the conversation, it's not like they're mugging to the camera and saying, oh, look, everyone, look how silly my walk is. They are treating the idea of silly walks dead seriously, and that's where the humor comes from. So Hayate the Combat Butler has a similar vibe in that it's got a completely ridiculous premise, and each chapter is kind of like, oh, a ridiculous thing happens. But then it has enough kind of grounding in the context of a narrative that you can kind of get with the flow of it. It's not really my style of humor. It's continually random, but what I will say for Kenjiro Hata is every time I was thinking, why am I reading this? Do I really want to read this? She'd give me another laugh and keep me hooked. So even though it's not my style of humor, I have respect for how Kenjiro Hata was able to pace the humor so well, and like little nuggets to keep you along with kind of the goofy story. It opens with a suicide joke, and I really love the first chapter because first it has this in media res that the protagonist looks all evil and creepy, and he's sneaking up on a girl in an alley. What's going on? And then it rewinds you in time to show you what he's about. That's an actually good in media res because now there's a conflict, between what we've seen in the future and what's going on in the present. So what I like about the opening is I don't know if this is an imagination or at a mall, but he's talking to Santa Claus, and he asks, hey, Santa-san, why didn't you bring me any presents? You want to know why? Well, because your family is poor. This is great. So this is sort of, what is this an example of? This is an example of using a really good opening hook to make sure everyone knows that this is supposed to be a farce, that you're not supposed to take this seriously. So having a little boy's dreams crushed by Santa Claus as he tells him he's poor and he's going to be miserable all his life. And so the only thing he can do is be honest and work hard. But even then, I won't be giving you a present. So there's no hope. He can be honest and good and work hard all his life, and that's the only hope he has. But Santa's still not giving him a freaking present. Oh, Jordan Peterson. I don't know if Jordan Peterson would like this, but it reminded me of that. Clean your room. So then he gets, it turns out he has like these evil parents who are gamblers, and they make him work like a slave to pay off their debts. Mommy's not buying horse racing tickets. I'm buying dreams. And so then the Yakuza come after him. So what the point is that it's ridiculous. You know that everything is ridiculous. You don't read it as serious drama. It just keeps introducing ridiculous thing after ridiculous thing and building on the old ridiculous things. And then there's a comedic misunderstanding where he decides he's not going to be moral and good anymore. He's going to kidnap a girl and make millions of dollars that way. But he's such a moron, he doesn't explain to her what he's doing, and she thinks he has a crush on her. And so this leads to some comedic misunderstanding and hilarious hijinks. I love when it makes fun of other manga. Like I bet this is a joke on Tuxedo Mask from Sailor Moon, where Sailor Moon never picks up that Tuxedo Mask looks an awful lot like the boy at her school, and then the rich girl shows up in a mask, and he instantly recognizes who she is, but he has to pretend that he doesn't know who she is. So the point is that the gags have a narrative context, so it's not just silly random reference to that show you like. It balances the referential humor with silly humor, with character humor, with action and adventure. So it's a much more balanced effect than sort of the random silliness of Squirrel Girl. Like, this is one of the only referential gags in the whole thing, and it's actually got a point, which is famous butlers, since he's a butler. So Alfred, sewing costume for Batman. What is it? Warubi was his name. I don't remember the W guy's name, but that's a homage to Death Note and L. And someone on Twitter told me that this is a reference to a manga called Big O that all feature, tough guy butlers. And then it makes a point that his job is different from all of that. Why did I? Oh yeah. I thought this was kind of cute too because it's somewhat politically incorrect. A butler should be manly. In this era of gender equality, we should seek to be all the more manly. You go, Klaus. I don't know if Klaus is supposed to be Santa Claus. There are a few little mysteries going on in the background here. And then this was the author. Okay, I thought this was cute. Her mom, Ritsuko, did title art. I mean, they obviously had to anglicize it for us, but I thought it was cute that she got her mom involved in the manga. And then she just does a few little, like a little goodbye, talking about how the cat was popular with the girls, and the very, very few girls who read this definitely not a shoujo manga asked her to have less sexy scenes. So I thought this was a good example of silly random humor. Not my thing, but I still laughed, and it delivered on a lot of gags. So I don't know if it's not that I hate it. It's just that it's not my style of comedy. Hayate the Combat Butler was good enough. I might pick up Volume 2, even though it's not my style. So that's the testament mostly to Kenjiro Hata's comedic writing. Oh, and she loves Masterpiece Theater, which I totally love. So that was like, I think Kenjiro Hata is cute, and it kind of comes across in her silly comedic boys manga that she did. I'll keep reading Bleach until I get sick of it. All right, 10 minutes, that's enough. Number one Marmaduke fan, I love you guys. I love my patrons on Patreon. Da-da-da-da-da, Magic Sparkle, and I'll catch you later.